about all things Chiron in Pisces is the wound of separation from the divine, okay? The core pain is I feel cut from divinity. I feel cut from source. I feel cut from God. Whatever you call God, whatever you call divinity, whatever you call source, whatever you call the highest power, people who have Chiron in Pisces feel disconnected from that power, okay? There is a deep sense of being spiritually abandoned or left adrift in a meaningless world. People who have Chiron in Pisces struggle to understand the meaning and the purpose of life. It's not unusual for people with Chiron in Pisces to be atheists or agnostic, because in general, they don't know how to cultivate their own relationship with God, with divinity, whatever you call God. When I say God, I'm not talking about the Christian God or the Muslim God or the Jewish God. I'm talking about the highest power, okay? Whatever the highest power is, however you quantify that, or whether or not you believe in that, that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about who you pray to. So don't read too much into my use of the word God. It just means whoever you worship. People with Chiron in Pisces struggle with being connected with a point of worship that feels authentic to them, okay? Amber Wells says that she has Chiron in Taurus. Oh, beautiful. I actually did Chiron in Taurus already. So Amber Wells, you can go over to youtube.com at, the name of the channel is Styled Under Virgo. Just 3 words, Styled Under Virgo. And you will see I did Chiron in Aries all the way to Virgo. And you can watch the Chiron in Taurus. Usually I'll add a legend in the description box. So you can just click on Chiron in Taurus to listen to your bit if you're interested in that. That's also my Chiron, so hopefully I did a good job with that. I'm going to be talking some more about this, so I'll be beefing it up as we go, okay? Chiron in Pisces also has issues with questioning their faith, you know, feeling betrayed by religion often. They tend to drift away from spiritual paths without ever truly feeling like they're connecting energetically with something that feels true. Heather Kondo, hi, thanks for joining. For many Chiron in Pisces, spirituality and religion feels like cosplay. And for many of them, because they don't know how to connect to divinity and they don't have a personal relationship with God, with spirit, with source, with life, with the universe, they think that everybody else is also performing. You know, they think everybody is pretending or is acting like they have a relationship with God, because when they're trying to connect to God, they don't have any connection. Nothing comes up. They feel like they're acting when they're trying to be spiritual, because they struggle to deeply connect with the spirit of life itself, okay? The second aspect of Chiron in Pisces, so the first one was the wound of separation from the divine. The second one is the pain of collective suffering. Pisces is the sign of the ocean in astrology. The ocean is our collective consciousness. This is why those of you who follow my account know that I'm very obsessed with water signs. Even though I'm not a water sign, I am a fire sign stellium, I am an earth sign stellium, but I think water signs have been gifted something very beautiful when it comes to their ability to tap into spirituality. In fact, the element of water speaks to spirituality, it speaks to feelings, it speaks to emotions, emotional intelligence. So Pisces is the zodiac sign that is the oldest of the water signs. It's also the oldest of all the zodiac signs. So Pisces energy is about the whole. It's about all of us. It's about the collective. This is why this lunar eclipse that we're having in Pisces on the 7th is going to shake everybody to their core. It's because when you have a lunar eclipse or a moon transit that is about the collective, it affects everybody on a deep level. Okay? So Pisces is the sign of our collective unconscious. There's an aspect of us that is conscious, an aspect of us that is unconscious. The aspect of us that's conscious is what we call our light, okay? Our light. The aspect of us that is unconscious is what we call our shadow. So Pisces at Chiron is the wound of the collective shadow. Okay, with Chiron there, people who have Pisces Chiron tend to absorb the pain of humanity. So when there's disarray in the population, in society, people who have Chiron in Pisces really struggle emotionally because they don't have a lot of protection from other people's energy. It's very easy for people, Pisces moon as an example, Pisces sun, moon, or rising on this chat, on this live chat. And if you guys wouldn't mind tapping on the screen to wake this thing up, I would really appreciate it. Just a simple tap. I will be tapping also sporadically to communicate to TikTok that I'm here, because when the screen goes untouched for a while, they send me a message to say that I'm not really here and I need to do something, otherwise they will kick me out. So don't be disturbed by me doing this. This is just so they know that I'm here. And if you guys can also communicate with the screen, that's how they know that I'm not just turning on the live and walking around. Yeah, they get very serious about people actually being on live and participating, okay? So if you're enjoying the live, if you wouldn't mind letting me know by touching the screen sporadically, I would really appreciate it. Oh, Ladyfish22, say they're Pisces. Very good. Hi, Sharon. Thanks for being here. Thank you, Ember Wells, for all the likes. If you guys wouldn't mind helping Ember Wells, I would appreciate it. Hi, Heather Bree. Thank you for joining. So Pisces, sun, moon, and rising. Can you guys tell me whether you experience this to be true? Have you found that it's easy for you to pick up on what other people are going through without them communicating it to you? Have you found that it's easy for you to just inherently know what's troubling other people without them telling you? It doesn't have to be the specifics of the story, but the feelings that they're having as a result of whatever is troubling them. Like, let's say as an example, somebody at work is going through a divorce. They haven't told you that they're going through a divorce, but you can just pick up on the vibe, on the feeling, like on an emotion of grief from them. You don't know all the details, but you feel it deep in your soul. Pisces, sun, moon, or rising, have you had that experience? Yes, Ladyfish22 said yes, I can feel their emotion. That is the gift and the curse of Pisces. The gift because it makes you very emotionally receptive. It makes you very emotionally astute. There's almost a psychic element to Pisces energy because it is the collective consciousness. I want you to think about consciousness like the earth. It's like there's one bucket and all of us are in it and all of us are one human life. I know we like to get distracted by like what makes us different, and sometimes it's funny to like laugh at silly racial things that you see in different groups, because all of us have our weird little quirks, you know, like black people do things a certain way, you know, Hispanic people do things a certain way, Asian people do things a certain way, white people, like some white people do things a certain way. Sometimes it's funny to laugh at our quirks because all of us have these weird quirks that we have. But at the end of the day, when you get it down to its roots, science tells us that we're not very different from one another genetically, and history tells us that all of us came from Africa. So all of us are truly the byproduct of one woman and one man, and religion tells us that too. So all of us are one people, okay? Out of that one people, that means all of us are one consciousness. So when you think about it as consciousness being this energy that is alive, that knows it all, that we call God, and people call it whatever, spirit, source, we say God knows everything and everyone because we are one. We're one with God and we're one of God, okay? We're one with God and we're one of God. So when we're talking about psychics, I know some people don't believe in psychics, and that's fine. I'm not trying to convince you to believe in anything. I'm just telling you what I know to be true. When we're talking about psychics, all a psychic is somebody who's able to tap into collective consciousness. That's it. Because that consciousness that we call God, spirit, source, is one. In the same way that all of us are one. So my secrets are your secrets, and your secrets are my secrets. So when you go see a psychic, all they are is somebody that is simply energetically attuned, somebody that is energetically more sensitive than others. And as a result, it's very easy for them to pick up on what other people are going through. And the zodiac sign Pisces is the psychic of the zodiac because they are all of us as one. So they don't have much barrier or protection from other people energetically, which is both the gift and the curse. Because when they're surrounded by people who are not energetically very good, they don't know how to keep themselves safe. But when people are hurting, Pisces is very astute and can easily access their pain to make them feel better. So it's kind of this duality. The wound being overwhelmed by sorrow or trauma, energies that aren't even yours. The flip side, or the curse of the Pisces energy, is that sometimes Pisces will literally get themselves into a depressive state because they are around people who are depressed. It's not that Pisces themselves is depressed. It's that other people in Pisces energy is depressed. And now Pisces feels depressed, or they feel angry, or they feel irritable. But it's nothing wrong with them. It's the energy around them, okay? Spiritually, this is about learning how to hold compassion without drowning in it. And that is energetically the lesson of Pisces. It's okay to feel what other people are going through, but ultimately everybody has their own burdens to bear. Other people's problems in their lives are not problems that you can fix for them. So why walk around carrying problems that are not yours and that you can't fix? It doesn't make any sense. You know, it's okay to make room for people's suffering. It's okay to empathize with people. It's okay to have compassion. It's okay to have understanding and to be the type of person that people feel comfortable talking to about their problems. However, it's not okay to make yourself so energetically available that people can just come and dump all of their negativity onto you, because then you're going to be a miserable, unhappy person while they go on with their lives. What's the point of the two of you being miserable when they're the only ones who can fix what's going on in their lives? The third aspect of the Chiron in Pisces is the shadow of escapism. Escapism. I can't talk. Escapism. So one of the ways that Pisces, Chiron, deals with the wounds of the lack of boundaries and the struggles with community with divinity is that they run away from their problems. And you can see Pisces do that at the sun, moon, and rising. You can see Pisces do that at every placement where you have Pisces. Pisces loves to run away from their problems, okay? This is why the fish can swim away. Pisces is the expert at making themselves the victim of every situation. Ask Pisces, undeveloped, unevolved Pisces, to tell you about a problem they're having in life, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be because somebody did something to them. Pisces, sun, moon, or rising, the one way you can tell these people are not developed, they're underdeveloped, they're living in their low vibration, their shadows, is that they see themselves as a perpetual victim and martyr. Both. Martyr and victim. They hardly ever see themselves as the agent of their own self-destruction, even though they're the ones living their lives, even though they're the ones making life decisions, even though they are in the driver's seat of their lives. But psychologically, they will find a way to tell every story in the form of them being victimized by others. To escape the ache of separation, there's a temptation here to dissolve through fantasy, through addiction, through compulsive spirituality, or through martyrdom. The lesson here isn't to transcend pain by leaving the body, but to bring divinity, spiritual essence, into their human experience. Amber Wells said, "My daughter is dating a fish moon, and he's got an aqua sun, and moon still makes me nervous." Oh yeah, this is someone that may be highly delusional if they're unevolved, because both Pisces and Aquarius share this quality of being delusional. And I mean like so hopeful that they lose touch with reality. That's what I mean by delusional. In the case of Pisces, is wanting to avoid problems. And in the case of Aquarius, is wanting to see the best outcome and being married to that regardless of what the actual reality is in the moment. Okay? If you guys wouldn't mind tapping on the screen for me, I would appreciate it. Hi, Afro. Thank you for joining. Hi, Ball. I appreciate it. Hi, Adam. And those of you who are just joining, we're talking about Chiron and Pisces. If you have questions about Pisces, please feel free to bring them in. This is all about Pisces energy. That's the only zodiac sign that we're talking about today, okay? Now, moving on to number 4, the wound of illusion versus truth. Pisces energy often struggles with deception, meaning lies, blurred reality, and projection. With Chiron here, betrayal by false prophets, gurus, or spiritual teachers can be a key wound, okay? The spiritual theme here is learning discernment. Trusting your direct line to source, to God, to spirit, instead of surrendering it to other people. So people who have Chiron in Pisces, it's not unusual for them to have a history of them being a part of some spiritual community where the leader of that community ended up not living up to whatever they thought they should have been living up to. Thank you for my 1,000 likes. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for my 1,000 hearts. So in addition to being naturally hesitant about spirituality, in addition to feeling energetically overwhelmed with everybody else's vibrations and energy, and in addition to being constantly in this state of wanting to run away from their problems, they also have a history of people taking them for a ride when it comes to their relationship with God, with divinity. So it's not unusual for them to have found themselves in some sort of spiritual trap where things were presented one way and then they found out that it was another way. So these experiences that they have end up reinforcing this kind of fragile, relationship that they have with having their own path to community with God, okay? Excuse me. So Pisces is often a zodiac sign that is chronically lied to by other people. It's either that or Pisces is chronically a liar to other people. Because Pisces is ruled by Neptune, the planet of illusion, deception, there is trickery energy involved with Pisces, where they like to pretend to not be experiencing reality, even though they are experiencing it. They like to pretend that what's happening isn't happening. It's almost like they like to retreat in a safer emotional place than what life is giving them. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to retreat when you feel unsafe. The problem is they often choose coping mechanisms that are self-destructive. And then they end up making themselves the villain of that end up making themselves the victim of that story, even though they're the ones that are choosing unhealthy ways to cope with their issues, with their emotional issues. Moving on to number 5, healing through compassion and mysticism. The gift of Chiron in Pisces is profound empathy, compassion, and mystical sensitivity. Okay? You heal not by denying your wound, but by transmuting it into wisdom, into art, into healing practices, and into spiritual guidance. True spirituality here is about integration. It's about embodying compassion in the everyday. It's not about floating away from the human condition. Pisces dreams of a world that is different from the world on earth, but Pisces is here to experience the world on earth with earthly problems. They're here to actually find out how to bring divinity, religiosity, spirituality, godliness to their everyday. But instead, what most Pisces want to do, especially at the Chiron, is run away from the world's problem to a fantasy land where there are no problems, where everything is perfect, and everybody's kind, and everyone is respectful, and life is perfect, and nothing has a flaw. And you and I both know that's not Earth. So since the lessons are here to learn are earthly lessons, Pisces has to integrate their super, porous boundaries and their poor emotional boundaries and their poor spiritual boundaries with the harsh reality of life. This is often why Pisces is often preyed upon by narcissists. Pisces attracts a lot of narcissists, okay? Other zodiac signs do too, but Pisces attracts the most because of this lack of energetic boundaries. They're just so easily manipulated. They're so easily led. They're so easy to give in to others. I made a video recently about the importance of water signs, like guarding their boundaries, and why this is why they cannot, how like poor boundaries with water signs leads to not being able to manifest. This is what I'm talking about. Pisces could have a vision, somebody comes along and gives them another vision, and with no hesitation whatsoever, if the vibes are good between Pisces and that person, Pisces is following that person. And then when it all crashes and burns, they turn around and say that person is the villain. They talked me into this. I didn't want to do it. It's like, but you chose to follow them. You could have just as easily said no. No, I don't want to do this. No, this is not for me. No, I'm not interested in this. No, I would rather focus on myself. They just don't take responsibility often for the ways in which they allow their empathy to cloud their judgment about reality. And they don't want to take responsibility for the ways in which they allow their compassion to overwhelm their logic. They're here to have both. There are some people that you're going to meet with very sad sob stories that you can't do anything to help. And Pisces refuses to accept that truth. And they think the only way that they can show their love is if they jump in that same hole with that person. So they will compulsively attract narcissists who are miserable people by design and who will never be healed from anything by design. And instead of seeing them as a wounded person that, is going to be subjected to this, spiritual lesson of like what life is like when you're a narcissist, Pisces thinks they can heal them. They can rescue them. Then they can make them feel better. And inadvertently, they end up destroying the Piscean's life in the process. And then Pisces turns around and feels emboldened by now having a sad story about a terrible person that they were trying to help who took advantage of them. When all of that could have simply been avoided by Pisces simply acknowledging the wound without latching on to the wound. The world is full of wounded people, Pisces. You can't fix all of them. You can't heal all of them. And here's the trick. Here's the kicker. Not all of them want healing. Some of them just want to be heard. And some of them just want to drag other people in their mess because they don't actually want to get better. These are harsh truths that Pisces doesn't want to accept. Yes, sometimes you'll meet wounded people whose sole interest is in making you as miserable as them because they don't actually want to get better. They just want company in their misery. You've heard the expression, misery loves company. Sometimes wounded people just want the company. They don't actually want to stop doing the things that they're doing that's causing them pain. They just don't want to feel lonely while they're in pain. That's it. And Pisces, who is low vibrational, sees them as helpless. Pisces sees them as an infant. Like, oh, this sad, poor person. I've got to do everything I can to help them. Meanwhile, this person doesn't even want your help. And you're just driving yourself insane for someone who doesn't even want to get better. It doesn't make any sense. Okay? Amber Wells said, my dad died in a car accident picking my brother up from jail for the millionth time. This is the truth. I'm so sorry, Amber Wells, that this has been your experience. But at the same time, I'm grateful that you've learned this lesson that many people still haven't learned. Sometimes the path that people choose, which by the way, that is their spiritual choice. I believe that all of us choose our stories before we come here. Because otherwise it wouldn't be fair. Okay? We all choose our roles. Sometimes people choose the role of the villain in the story. The person that wants to perpetually continue to help themselves, continue to hurt themselves, so that other people can see the kind of bad decisions they don't want to make in their lives. Some people are in your life solely for you to learn from them what not to do. That's it. That's the only reason why you know this person. It's the only reason why spiritually this person came to you. What not to do. And Pisces, when unevolved, cannot separate their compassion from other people's suffering. And Pisces is willing to give up all of their compassion, all of their security, all of their safety to keep others from suffering. And usually it works, because usually most people, when they're suffering, they want to get better. But what happens is Pisces compulsively also attracts narcissists who don't want to get better. They just want other people to suffer with them. So then their life goes to hell, right along with the wounded person who doesn't want healing. Amber Wells added, the fish just gets caught up, and I blamed his brother for a long time, but it's good to accept. Yes, acceptance is very valuable. I'm going to read some of your other comments. Lady Savage said, I'm a Pisces North Node, Virgo South Node. Oh, Lady Savage, you're actually great for this because you have the reverse. So what comes to you naturally is the Virgo energy. You're here to actually learn some of the compassion of Pisces. So that's good. But I think Virgo obviously has a lot more skills for survival than Pisces does. The problem is because Pisces is so old, energetically, spiritually, it's harder for them to have that separation because they're very giving. It's really coming from a place of love and of wanting to be giving. But there is a mask that is involved with that as well because of Neptune. So when Pisces is mature, they're willing to face their spiritual task, okay? Their spiritual task is to make peace with the paradox that being human is being separate, but within that separation, God is still present. So what binds all of us as one is that God is all of us together come together to create the universe, to create God, to create spirit. We're all together one consciousness, okay? I don't think of God as being like a separate entity. I think of God as being all of us together. So I have certain powers that God has given me. I have the power to create. That makes me a God. You have the power to create. That makes you a God. That's what a God is, right? Somebody that can create. You can create. I can create. We're both gods. However, because I cannot create you and you cannot create me, and there is a force out there that can create me and you, then naturally to me that force is more powerful than me individually and you individually. So when we come together, that's what that one consciousness is. God, whatever you want to call it, whoever you worship. So I'm separate from you, but together we're one. And Pisces is here to reconcile that when somebody's hurting, it doesn't mean they're hurting. When somebody's having a problem, Pisces, that doesn't mean you're having a problem. Just because somebody's in a bad mood and wants to be a rude human, that doesn't mean you need to be in a bad mood because they're in a bad mood. You can simply bring down your wall and let them have a bad mood by themselves. Because why are you ruining your life? Because they want to ruin theirs. It doesn't make sense. Okay? The second spiritual task of Chiron in Pisces is transform the pain of disconnection into a bridge of healing for others who feel spiritually lost. When a Pisces has mastered this task, they can have empathy and compassion and guide people back to themselves if they want to be guided without Pisces losing their path. It's not about you sacrificing your journey for them. It was never about that. It was about you witnessing their expression of divinity. Because sometimes divinity is the wounded who does not want to get better. And you need to accept that. Because you're not the Almighty. You can't make people want to get better if they don't. And sometimes when people see that you're actually trying to make them better, but they're not ready for it, they will punish you for it. They will punish you for you seeing them in a better light than the light that they're currently willing to shine in. They will punish you for you projecting your expectations onto them that they're not ready to live up to. They will punish you for you seeing them at their worst because they're not yet ready to step up to be their best selves. Sometimes people will resent you because you want to help them. And I know it sounds twisted, but I need you to know that this is one of the ways that people respond to higher, more energetically evolved vibration, is they will resent you. They will punish you because your mere existence makes them angry. Because how dare you highlight my shadows? How dare you give me hope that I don't yet have? How dare you ask more of me than what I'm capable of right now? And now I'm mad at you that I don't yet have. How dare you ask more of me than what I'm capable of right now? And now I'm mad at you. Now I resent you because you're asking more of me than I can deliver right now. Somebody said literally my relationship with my younger brother. He's a Pisces. And that's how it goes. Odd. You're not the highest power in the land. Everyone has their journey. You need to respect your journey. Highest power in the land. Everyone has their journey. You need to respect your journey enough to have compassion for how hard it is, and respect it enough to be loyal to your path, regardless of what everybody else is going through. To own your role as a wounded mystic, not the perfect healer, but the one who understands pain deeply enough to help others through it. But only if they're receptive, only if they're willing, only if they're eager. What I can tell you from my experience as a therapist who worked in mental health for 20 years, not as a therapist in those 20 years, but the majority of that time as a therapist, is that when people are not ready for change, there's nothing you can do to make them change. You can go as far as ruining your life for them to change, but if they're not ready for change, there's nothing you can do to make them change. The only way people change is if they want to change. They have to be ready. They have to be willing. They have to choose it, because change is hard. It's very hard. Change is very painful because it's asking you to do something different. Different from what you're currently doing, different from what you normally do. And that's not easy. Change is very painful because it's asking you to do something different, different from what you're currently doing, different from what you normally do. And that's not easy. Have any of you ever tried to change something about yourself? Is that easy? It's not. It's very difficult. So, thinking that you can change other people, in essence, is narcissistic. Because you think you're God. You think you're going to play God in somebody's life. You think you know better than they know about themselves. You think you know better than they know about their own life. I always tell my clients, I can't work harder than you. Because if I'm working harder than you, that means you're not working hard enough. It's your life. You're the one living it. You only see me once a week for an hour. You're with yourself 24 hours a day. You're with yourself 24 hours times 7 every week. I only see you for 1 hour of that time. In what world do I have more power to change your life than you do? That doesn't even make any sense. The numbers don't add up. So if I find myself working harder than you do, that tells me your level of commitment and dedication is lower than mine. And that's not a good balance. You need to be working as hard as I'm working. I come prepared. I show up. I have a strategy. I have a plan. I educate. I teach. I give homework. I hold you accountable. You've got to do your part. You've got to learn. You've got to do the homework. You've got to reflect. You got to examine your behavior. If you're not willing to do any of that, you might as well save your money and save your time. Because I don't want your money if you're not willing to work. Because I come here to change your life. That requires that we both work. If I'm the only one who is respecting rules, I'm the only one who's respecting boundaries, I'm the only one who's doing what I'm supposed to do, it's not going to work. So you might as well not waste your time. I didn't stop being a therapist to come be a coach who doesn't coach. The reason I chose to become a spiritual coach over a therapist is because I wanted to have conversations about spirituality. And secondly, I wanted to be more direct about what your problem is. You know, as a therapist, I would have to wait sometimes years for you to figure out what your problem is. As a coach, I can cut through all of that noise and tackle that very quickly in the first or second session. Now, after that, it's up to you. If you want to work, to learn some new behaviors, some new patterns, and dedicate yourself to be a higher version of yourself, or if you don't. Either way, just be honest with me. I'm a Sagittarius. I love honesty. I don't need to hear what you think I want to hear. I just want to hear what the truth is. If the truth is you're scared to work, say that. If the truth is you're scared to fail, say that. But don't tell me that you want change, but you don't want to work. That's not going to work. Someone says they're a Capricorn. Oh, nice. I'm a Capricorn and Sagittarius stellium. So I like realness. If you're into lies, I'm not the coach for you. I need you to be honest with me because I can't help you if you're not honest. People who change are people who want to change, are people who choose their want different from themselves. They say, you know what? This thing that I've been doing for the last 10, 20 years, it's not working for me anymore. It's not making me happy. I want something else. I'm going to do whatever it takes to get something else. That's the type of client that I like working with because you're ready. And I'm not saying you need to be at that level to come see me. I'm saying when you come see me, there has to be a desire for you to get a different outcome. But if you're just coming to waste your time, you could do that for free. You don't need to pay me for that. Okay? Now back to Pisces. When a Pisces Chiron is willing to heal, they become a healer who is mature. Someone who can channel compassion but have boundaries. They become a spiritual guide for other people, not because they claim to know it all, but because they walk beside other people through their vulnerability. They become an artist who's a visionary. They give voice to the suffering. They make art, poetry, music. They use their spirituality as a mode for creativity. When a Pisces Chiron is healed, they show other people that divinity isn't just out there in the sky. It's in us, it's in me, it's in you, it's in all of us, it's in every day. It's not just in church. Everything that you do, you can do it with divinity. Every intention that you set it with divinity. When you wake up every day with the realization that you are a part of God because God made you, you wake up different. When you wake up with that mindset that I am a part of God because God made me. And I am here to bring my godly gifts and my godly influence to this hemisphere to make my life and other people's lives better. When you wake up with this attitude, it's hard to go about life mindless and careless. You understand that you have a spiritual obligation every day to work on being your higher self. Okay? And being your higher self is a spiritual obligation of being human. That's why you came here, is to be a higher version of yourself. Okay? Chiron in Pisces carries the wound of spiritual exile. But within that, there's also the gift of becoming a healer who reconnects with others with divinity. It's not about perfection, but it's about our shared humanity, our shared pain, our shared compassion. You know, people often get super religious and they forget that spirituality is a daily practice. When you meet somebody that is hungry or you meet somebody that needs direction, They don't need you to pray for them. They need you to show them the way. They need you to give them food. Sometimes your role in the wounded person's life is to be their God, is to be their savior. And I don't mean that they worship you. I mean you're the solution to their problem. And a Chiron in Pisces that is healed or healing or has done their work, that can be that vessel. It's a vessel. That can be that vessel for change without sacrificing themselves. That's where the boundary comes in. I empathize with your humanity. I understand that life is painful. I know it's difficult to get right. I know it's hard to make changes. Hell, my life has crashed and burned a million times. I've had to rebuild it a million times. I know how hard it is to rebuild yourself after you've fallen on your face, after the rug has been pulled from underneath you. I can give you my story. I can give you my tips. I can give you my encouragement. Hell, I can even give you my spiritual powers. But what I cannot do is sacrifice my peace of mind, my well-being, my mental health, and my physical health to accommodate your woundedness. I have to be able to protect myself enough to be able to care for you and everybody else that I will meet after you who's going to be going through something. Oftentimes, Pisces become so overwhelmed with the pain and suffering they see in others that they think giving all that they've got to that one person is going to fix the world. And Pisces, what I need you to hear is that the world is not meant to be fixed. It is meant to be experienced. And in this world, there's a lot of pain. And some people do not want respite from their pain. All they want is for you to sit with them and witness it. They want you to acknowledge that they don't have the strength to get from underneath this pain. Maybe one day they will. But today, in this moment, they ain't got it. And all they want is for you to acknowledge their humanity in the midst of their suffering. In this moment. That's it. That's all they needed. Somebody said, you're spot on. I have a Pisces moon and this is totally me. Thank you for sharing that. And that's literally all they needed from you. But sometimes Pisces, because of their ego, and they don't even know it's coming from ego, they think, oh, I'm being loving, I'm being kind, I'm helpful. No, it's ego driven. For you to think you can fix someone that doesn't want to be fixed, that's called playing God. And I'm not saying God is, again, it's not about the Christian God, the Jewish God. I mean, that's called being the Almighty. Only the Almighty can fix everything. And the Almighty decided to allow us to be in a universe where problems never stop existing. So what does that tell you? Sometimes the way you can play God is not for you to try to fix anyone, but rather for you to be willing to experience everything. And sometimes sitting with that wound is all that is needed. For you to just not devalue me because I'm struggling with an issue that I cannot overcome right now. For you to not trivialize my pain because you don't understand why I'm still making the same mistake. Sometimes that's all I can do. Sometimes I'm just here to remind you of what not to do. God uses everybody differently. And we're not here to judge everybody's path. But we have an obligation to witness, to just make space. Make room for everybody to exist. And that's literally the calling of Pisces. Okay? The core wound of Chiron in Pisces is, to summarize, separation from God. They have an existential crisis around feelings of feeling cut off from God, cut off from source, cut off from from spirituality and just feeling abandoned in a meaningless world. Okay? The second core wound of Chiron in Pisces is drowning in collective pain. Pisces absorb the pain of humanity. They feel overwhelmed by the sorrow of humanity. A lot of times the emotions Pisces is walking around with aren't even their own. It's just what everybody else is feeling, and it makes them feel sad and overwhelmed. And oftentimes that's why Pisces is often addicted to drugs. This is one of the main coping mechanism, because at least with drugs, they don't have to experience a world that is constantly aching. Okay? And this is because they don't have the emotional and spiritual boundaries to protect themselves from the pain of the world. Okay? The third wound of Chiron in Pisces is disillusionment from faith. Basically feeling betrayed by religious leaders, feeling betrayed by spirituality, feeling betrayed by fake preachers and false teachers, feeling betrayed by fake gurus and false spiritual systems, feeling betrayed by a promise of salvation that never came, feeling betrayed by a belief system that never brought them closer to God. And the reason why that betrayal happens is so they can learn that they don't need a minister, they don't need a guru, they don't need a leader, they don't need a prophet, they don't need anybody to connect with God, because all of us are God. That's the lesson. So that means trust your intuition, trust your knowledge, trust your guidance, trust your direction. And instead of diving into the pain of the woundedness of humanity, oftentimes Pisces uses, moving on to the fifth wound, an escape as a form of survival. Instead of dealing with the pain and learning how to process their pain, the pain of earth, the pain of the human experience, the pain all of us carry, they want to numb it out. That's where addiction comes in. That's where the lies, the multiple identities come in. That's where the fantasy comes in. That's where we get into character, where we start playing the martyr in the story that we created. And this is a deception of Neptune. Neptune naturally comes with deception. There's a temptation here to avoid reality by joining forces with the darkness. And in the case of Pisces, the darkness is deceit. Because when you're taking that drug to numb this pain, did that pain leave Earth? Did that pain leave humanity? No. What did you do? You separated yourself from a reality. Temporarily, mind you. Because eventually that high is going to come off. You're going to get sober. Because you can't be drinking 24/7. Eventually, you have to put down the bottle to get to work, take care of your kids. Whatever you got to do. Clean your house. Drive a car, and then you got to get back to those feelings, right, that you're running away from. So the deception is in the belief, the erroneous belief, that you can somehow escape this reality. Oh no, baby, all of us are stuck here. And you know what's crazy is we chose this. All of us chose it. There is such a thing as a spiritual agreement before you come. Otherwise, the universe wouldn't be fair. I believe the universe is fair and balanced. That's why Libra represent the scales. This place has good and bad, not just bad. The reason why Pisces often experience this place as overwhelmingly bad is because they don't have emotional regulation. And they don't have a capacity for witnessing darkness without running away. And that is their greatest power. If you can make running away. And that is their greatest power. If you can make room for experiencing pain without running away, the more room you can make for that, the more in tune you become with your, for experiencing pain without running away, the more room you can make for that, the more in tune you become with your environment. Because you're no longer lying to yourself into this distorted belief system that somehow you can create another reality that's separate from Earth where there's no problems. Because that doesn't exist. As long as there are humans on Earth, there will be problems. Because humans are here to heal themselves. All of us are wounded. That's why we came. Okay, if you guys wouldn't mind tapping on the screen, TikTok is sending me messages about inactivity. If you could just tap it for me sporadically, I would appreciate it. We all came here because we're wounded, meaning we all have healing work to do. Everybody has a Chiron for this reason. So in the case of Pisces, that is the wound. They're running away from their spiritual calling, which is to develop empathy for the suffering without putting their life on the altar. So everybody can, without sacrificing themselves. That's it. Can you not sacrifice yourself while you reserve space for other people's suffering? That's the question. If the answer is yes, then let's work on boundaries. With this Pisces lunar eclipse that's going on, you may have noticed that some old wounds that you thought you had worked through are coming open back up again. Wounds that erupted September 2024. This is to bring you back to healing. Our collective North Node right now is in Pisces. Okay? This lunar eclipse is going to, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. You guys know how I am. I'm a Sagittarius stellium, Capricorn stellium. I don't deal well with lies, okay? I don't deal well with bullshit. I deal with the truth. I like it raw. I like it clean. I like it simple. We don't have to make things too complicated. This lunar eclipse is going to whoop your behind if you have not developed a greater capacity for truth. Okay? If your spirit has an aversion to truth, you're going to be going through a rough time, because a lunar eclipse in Pisces is going to disrupt illusions. It's going to rip off that mask very violently. Those olden shoes that I've been talking about, and I'll be vulnerable, mine that has been coming up recently is around my mother wound. I've talked numerous times on here about my mother wound. I just watched that Unknown Number documentary on Netflix. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but it was very triggering for me, because this is the kind of behavior that my mom would engage in if she was that type of woman. If she was attracted to minors and that sort of thing and had access to technology. You know, I was raised by a mother who doesn't have a lot of compassion and gets a lot of pleasure from watching her children fail, watching her children suffer. Meanwhile, she puts a lot of her responsibilities on them so that they can take care of her. So in her mind, a healthy relationship with her children is one-sided. All of us only exist to make her happy, to make her comfortable, and anything that disrupts her comfort is a problem. She doesn't think parenting is a job of like making yourself uncomfortable for the sake of your child. She thinks nurturing is an exhausting job that disrupts her peace. So anything that requires her to be uncomfortable so she can prioritize the needs of her children, she's going to have a reaction to it. And usually that reaction is going to be abusive, because it physically makes her angry when she doesn't get to be the one who's getting taken care of. When she's not the child in the relationship, it physically makes her angry and she lashes out. So that's my childhood. Okay? So I've been in therapy for many years to work on this. But I've noticed as this lunar eclipse is coming up, Pisces being about femininity, about compassion, about sensitivity, I've realized that over the years, I've allowed my compassion for her trauma and her suffering to kind of blur the boundaries between us, where there have been times when I've been really good with my boundaries, where whatever is going on with her that causes her to not really be able to feel her children's pain and empathize, I've made so much emotional room for that I've allowed a lot of it to spill into my life. So much so that now the way our relationship works is if my phone is ringing, I know she's calling me because there's a problem, or she's calling me because she needs somebody to dump her emotional instability on. Like she needs somebody to beat up on, she needs somebody to berate, she needs somebody to crash out on. Like she needs some sort of emotional juice from me. Like she basically wants to trade whatever negativity she's feeling by passing it on to me. When my phone rings and my mother's calling, it's not because she's like, I was just thinking about you, how's your day going? No, it's never that. It's never that. So For the longest time, I was okay with it being like neutral even, like, let me just tell you what's going on with me. But lately it's kind of like veered like more negative, where I'm just like angry and I just want to lash out, or I just want to start drama. And it's just like, it keeps like getting, the NT keeps going up. And, we all go through stuff, but I'm not someone who ever calls people to transfer my negativity onto them. And it's probably because I was raised in this manner that I didn't even have the option to be that person. So this has been what's been coming up for me, because Pisces brings issues of compassion, love, nurturing to the surface. If you didn't get that in childhood, around this time it's going to come up. And yes, I've done a lot of work around this, but the work never ends. When things happen that trigger that wound, it's going to erupt. And then I have to get myself back grounded. I have to work on my boundaries again. I have to remind myself of my coping mechanisms to be able to, exist in a relationship with a mother who behaves this way. So you might have your own emotional issues that are going on, maybe not necessarily related to that, but definitely related to femininity, to sensitivity, to spirituality. Because the other element of this for me is that I grew up in a very religious home. So while there's like a lot of preaching about being kind, being loving, the behaviors that were happening behind closed doors weren't matching up with that, which is part of that Pisces like Chiron betrayal. Like the difference between religion and spirituality is that spiritual people want to live their values, and religious people want to follow rules, and they get a lot of positive feedback from their group for following rules. So very different, way of living. So I pride myself in living my truth, and they pride themselves on following religious rules. And for me, what I've had to learn over the years is that I have to self-protect, because there's no limit to how far somebody like that will go in disrupting your peace. Because they're out of control, they're not able to manage their negativity, and all they really want is for you to carry it for them. And now at my big age, I've been carrying it since I was a child. I feel like I need a break so I can carry my own load and my own responsibilities in my actual life. And I'm now coming to terms with the fact that I can never fix whatever is broken in her that makes her behave this way. And there's nothing I can ever do. 20 years of working in mental health didn't give me the skills to do that. 25 years of studying astrology and understanding all the ways that our connection is difficult didn't give me the skills to do that. And I'm coming to terms with the reality that this is not something I can fix. And all I can do is witness it. Understand that sometimes girls are so deeply wounded in childhood that when they become mothers, they can't mother. And they can choose to heal so they can mother, but many don't. And that's her choice. But that's not my problem. Nor is it something I can fix. Does it break my heart? Yes. Does it hurt me that I've gone through this? Yes. Does it hurt me that this is her only definition of motherhood? Yes. Do I wish things were different? Yes. But can I fix it? No. I can't. If in 43 years with all the knowledge and experience that I have, I can fix it, I don't think it's going to happen when I'm 53 or 63. So at some point, you have to come to terms with the reality. And the reality is, if a person doesn't want to change, you cannot change them. And abandoning yourself to take care of them will not make them better, and in most cases will make you worse. So what Pisces lunar eclipse is calling you to do is examine, where is that boundary with protecting yourself and taking care of other people, having compassion for other people? It's that axis between Virgo and Pisces. Is it possible to have the compassion without throwing your whole system in the air to accommodate them? Especially given that they're showing no signs or desire to accommodate you. And how equitable and healthy is that kind of relationship? A relationship with somebody that derives pleasure from harming you and has no desire to change. If you continue to subject yourself to this type of energy, whose fault is that really? Is it her fault? Because it's obvious she can't help herself. Or is it your fault, the one who's cognizant and aware that this is unhealthy, but is choosing to re-enter that relationship with the hopes that it may be different this time? These are the questions. And there is no denial under this lunar eclipse in Pisces. And something has to break for you to transcend and evolve. Otherwise, you would continue being stuck in this low vibrational state. Okay? Stephanie said there was emotional abandonment in my childhood, and I never realized how it affected me as an adult. I'm so glad that you're coming to terms with it. Many of us have gone through this, and it's not something you ever heal from. You know, I think a lot of us mental health professionals, or a lot of us that go into this field, do so for personal reasons. Although I'm not sure that we're aware of it at the time. When I went to school and started studying psychology back in 2002, I'm not sure that I was aware it was because I had all these family issues. All of that, you know, I gradually became aware of over time. So it takes a while sometimes to increase our awareness of the issues, and that's okay. But once you have the awareness, though, you can't. One second. Sorry about that, guys. Yes, if you wouldn't mind tapping on the screen, TikTok just tried to lock me out because the screen was inactive. They said it was inactive for 5 minutes. So if you wouldn't mind tapping on the screen for me, I appreciate it. This is what happens when I don't touch it sporadically and when you guys don't touch it. So if we could all just touch it sporadically, that would help me. So let me see. Let me read some of your other comments. So what I was saying is many people have gone through emotional abandonment in childhood. For some of us, it's more severe than others. And I think, you know, what this Pisces collective North Node is calling all of us to is really healing. This is a time to heal. It's a time to acknowledge your wound and see how it's affecting other parts of your life and how it's affecting your physical health. And it's time to really set boundaries in place that prioritize your physical, emotional, you know, well-being, because ultimately you're responsible for yourself. Okay. So Serrano said, my heart is breaking. This is how I'm feeling at this point. Yeah, it's there's a lot of emotional pain in the air that all of us are picking up on. It's not just my pain, it's your pain and all of our pain. Stephanie said, I found out when I did shadow work and I immediately started to heal because I felt robbed from showing love to my son. Oh, I love that for your son, that he gets to be raised by a mom who actually is trying to give him better because she didn't have what she needed. Again, back to Chiron in Pisces, sometimes the only reason you're in that storyline is for you to learn what not to do. You know, I've learned how not to be a mother from my mother. And that's not to say she didn't have any positive traits, but we're talking about like the actual art of mothering, of nurturing. You know, my mom didn't have any of those things. So sometimes that's the lesson. And sometimes the lesson is I can't rescue her from her journey. She has to learn through some difficult lessons that the price we pay for community is discomfort. The price we pay for love is discomfort. Okay? Being a mom means that sometimes your son or your daughter, your child is going to need something that you don't want to do, that you don't like to do, that doesn't feel comfortable. And you do it. And you do it with a smile because you want them to know that you're grateful to know them and you're happy to be there for them. And a lot of times you don't want to do it. You know, when you first bring a newborn home, you got to wake up in the middle of the night several times, 3, 4 times, 5 times a night. It's not easy. Given the choice, most people wouldn't want to do it. But the love for them makes you feel responsible towards them. And it fills your cup in a way to know they have what they need because you're there, because you understand what your role is in their lives. But the moms that don't understand that the price we pay for love is discomfort resent their children when their children need them. They get angry when the baby's crying. Because why are you disturbing me? Why are you disrupting me? Because to them, mothering parenting was about the child doing for them, the child servicing them, the child providing for them, the child stroking their ego, the child providing for them at all times, whether it's you're the best mommy in the world or, let me do this for you, whatever. So for those types of parents, when the child needs them, their comfort is more important than the discomfort of the child. Like, I know you're crying, but I'm comfortable. And the fact that I have to be uncomfortable so you're comfortable bothers me. I have a problem with that. And that's healing work that those types of parents have to do. Because there's a reason they act this way. Because that's not normal. It's not normal to bring somebody here that you don't want to take care of. It's not normal. It's not healthy. This is happening because something happened to you that taught you that if you took care of other people, that meant you wouldn't be safe. But that's not something I can fix. It's not something you can fix. Only that person has to fix that in them. And that's a decision they have to make. So I will be back on live to talk about the lunar eclipse. Normally, I do love readings on Sundays. But tomorrow, I'm actually going to be back on live to talk about the horoscope expectations for the zodiac signs, because this one is major. And this month is a really rough month astrologically. So I will be on live to go through that. I'm also going to be getting the podcast out for you guys. For those of you who don't know the Aquarius podcast, link in bio, you can go check it out. Every time we have a moon transit, new moon, full moon, I'll do a reading on there. There's also a YouTube channel associated with that. And for those of you who don't have Chiron in Pisces but have Chiron in the other zodiac signs, head over to Style Under Virgo on YouTube. I have all the Chirons done from Aries all the way now to Pisces. And I have a lot of information there about holistic healing. You can also subscribe to my main YouTube channel at Intuitive Healing for Astrology 101 content. And I have Styled Under Libra, which is a channel where I do a lot of love readings. I do a lot of celebrity love readings if you're into that sort of thing. And of course, if you want to schedule a reading with me, go to intuitivehealing.com. I'm currently running a sale during fall because it's my favorite time of the year. So you can schedule a reading with me from there. And that's pretty much it. And of course, follow me here on TikTok. I'm trying to post once a day now. Not as active as I used to be because I'm a lot more responsible with my daughter being back in school. There's a lot more going on. But I am on live on average 2 to 3 times a week. So posting every day 2 to 3 times a week is all I can do in live right now in terms of my availability. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for coming and hang out with me. I appreciate you. Thank you for all the love, the likes. Thank you for interacting with the screen. TikTok is definitely registering. Thank you for getting me to 10,000 likes from 0. I appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about this Pisces lunar eclipse. So you're ready for it. And have a wonderful night, okay? And go easy on yourself. This is a time of rest, okay? When we have a lunar eclipse, it's for us to allow whatever the spirit is bringing forth to just be. We're witnessing what's happening. We're resting. We're acknowledging the pain, okay? This is not a time of heavy, hard work. We can't fix all of this overnight. We're just naming the thing, naming the wound, what's happening right now. We're making note of what's happening, and then we're resting. So if you have a chance to comforting, soothing things, please do that for yourself, okay? All right, I love you guys. Take care. Au revoir. Bye-bye.
You can book your astrology reading at intuitivehealing.com. You can also watch videos at Intuitive Healing here on YouTube for Astrology 101 content. Listen to the Aquarius podcast on Spotify, as well as here on YouTube for your horoscope. If you're interested in astrology and love connections, you can visit at Styled Under Libra. And of course, for health and wellness and holistic healing, visit at Styled Under Virgo for all of your astrology content. Thanks so much for watching.